Don't skip this. You may have seen Misha Chiroudin's dyno video on the 2021 Model 3 Performance, one of the most viewed dyno videos on that car. And you may be using that as a comparison against the 2024. In that video, they got 523 horsepower, which is actually metric horsepower, or PS, which equates to 516 imperial horsepower. Let's talk about this 516 number and why I think it is on the higher end. There are many misconceptions about dynos, but what you need to know is that horsepower and torque numbers can vary wildly based on a variety of factors, like the type of dyno, the correction factors applied by the tester, and in the case of EVs, the state of charge and the battery temperature. Even the type of dyno alone can potentially result in over a 10% difference in horsepower numbers. There's inertia dynos, eddy current brake dynos, even hub dynos. And on top of this, the correction factors applied by the tester can make the results vary even more when you compare one dyno versus another. And what you need to know is they're just a tool. In the real world, dynos are not used to compare one dyno versus another and compare those horsepower numbers. Rather, they are used to get a baseline and then compare a car's mods after the change on the same dyno. Now back to that 516 number. I think this number is on the very high end of that estimation range, and I'm not here to say this number is right or wrong. Like I just mentioned, there are many variables that go into the final output. But I think this is on the higher end because there are also many other dyno videos out there on the old performance, such as Mountain Pass, National Speed, and Cody Graham, and they all got very close to 465 horsepower. Note these three tested on the older performance model, so this is prior to the 5% increase in power that came over an update. But even with that 5% increase in power, we're talking 480 to 490 horsepower. Also, Inside Italia did test the updated 5% model and got 472 horsepower. And what's interesting is Mountain Gate Performance, they actually had the same model of dyno as Misha's video, but there are many variables that come to it. For example, this model, it can run in inertia-only mode. So one can only speculate at what kind of testing factors that each of these runs, including my own, are doing. I didn't want to make this video an essay, but I think this 523 number is stuck in many people's heads and needed to be addressed first. Now let's get back to it. Charged up to 100%, and we'll get there with 93%, which should be pretty optimal for producing peak horsepower. And right now we're hooking up the Model 3 to the dyno. Got to strap it down. The front strap helps it stay straight so it doesn't turn left and right. And we're putting on the back straps now. And you can see that Tesla made a lot of changes to the underbody of this car. They even added these underbody tunnels that you can see there, the tunnels and fins, which may be acting as venturis and generating a little ground effect for better downforce and stability. And of course, they did a good job with the suspension and did a lot of overhauling with it. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. Dyno test. There we go. All right. I'm here with Victor from AFR Performance. These guys are good, very knowledgeable. Recommend checking them out. All right, 507. There it is.
So now we can kind of imagine, it will not retorque. There's no RPM. So we can kind of imagine as soon as I give it a go, instant. So we're going time. So we're going to switch the axis at the bottom from time because we only did 4 seconds, which is quite short. So if we wanted to do the run longer, we add more load. See how consistent this thing is.
Okay. Next run, 22-100.
You can see how the dyno just squats. The car just slows.
Yeah.
Watch this. So it's pretty average, 502, 507.
Yeah.
There's always variations on it.
Oh man, that thing just squats down. All right, that was sick.
That was a good one. So see that one.
I got you.
And indeed it is. It's kicking at 60 miles an hour.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And which color is the run we just did?
It's the green one.
The green one. Okay. Yeah. So 0 to 100 run, and it's peaking at 60. Okay. So
Yeah.
that matches up with what Tesla's saying. They're saying it peaks at a higher speed.
Yeah. So you can see it's ramping. That's a very linear ramp. So you can see 0,
Oh yeah.
and it's a straight ramp. It's climbing very, very steadily.
How does that compare to gas cars?
Oh, they're normally start very, very lowish. I'll show you one. This one, for example.
All right.
So you can see, but this one is a lot more to it. You have torque, horsepower, boost, air-fuel ratio.
Yeah.
So you can see the horsepower is kind of doing the same from, but this is not a 0 mile an hour run. This is a normally it's on like 4th gear, you know. You're doing like a 40 mile an hour. And then ramps. And this is RPM from 3,000 to redline.
And why do you think, I guess, could you explain how that could happen when one of the first runs like 510-ish, and then now we are at 480?
I wouldn't know how to explain that on a electric vehicle,
Sure.
But on a combustion vehicle, horsepower variations are due to a lot of compensations, such as knock feedback, intake temps, exhaust temps, coolant temperature, and fuel delivery, fuel pressure, depending how you have it set up.
And probably there's also battery. I know EVs, they put out a lot more power when they're high. This should be good though, like 88%.
It should be good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's staying consistent.
Yeah, it is.
But again, we have the AC. I don't know if AC plays a part, to be honest.
Right.
But
Alright.
I call this one accurate. This is a big Eddie brake, so if you put your hand right here,
Yep.
it's nice and handy. You can actually hear it.
Oh
You
yeah.
can hear that humming.
I do hear it. Yeah, exactly. So why is it that some dynos, for example, like the one you mentioned before, it just produces higher numbers, and like, what does that mean for the real world? Is there
Based
one that's
on,
more...
I'm not a big expert, but on my limited knowledge, a inertia dyno, it's a constant rotational mass. So those dynos work on RPM versus speed. So how fast the car's moving that inertia on an RPM plot. So 1,000 RPM all the way to redline. How fast are you spinning the inertia all the way to redline? That'll spit the horsepower. So on an inertia dyno, you can grab a 2nd gear run and do a run, and that'll spit 650 horsepower. Then you transfer that into a 4th gear run, or like a 1-to-1 gear ratio, and then it'll read like 450.
Right.
Because you're spinning that rotational mass at a much lower rate.
Okay.
This one, it's a brake dyno, so you are controlling the acceleration rate. You're not spinning you're not calculating how fast you're spinning the mass. You're controlling the acceleration with the Eddie brake.
Right.
Yeah. This one can also do inertia only, but then it spits a much higher horsepower because inertia is very, very small. So like the most known inertia dyno is the Dyno Jet. So that one has, I think it's a 24-inch drum, and some of those contain weights on them. So they're pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Pretty heavy.
If this car was on an inertia dyno with the numbers you're seeing,
It'll read higher.
what do you think it would spit out? It's hard to say, obviously.
It's hard to say, but based on what I've seen, this dyno, it's about 15% off a dyno jet.
Okay.
15. So you'll definitely see on the mid-lows vibes for sure.
Yeah, this is great. And how many runs we get in? 4 runs?
We got 4 runs. So two 20s, 160 and 10. So you can see the start 0, a little between 20 and then 25, and then a straight 60, like it's, you know. But the cool thing is, and regardless of speed, whether you start at 0 or you start at whatever it might be, 0, 20, 60, by the time you reach 100, they're all about the same. They're all following the same plot.
Yeah, that is
it's
fascinating. In summary, this car is in all likelihood not pushing 600 on most dynos. Maybe mid 5s, maybe even high 5s on an inertia dyno. But yeah, I would say Tesla's numbers were pretty much spot on with this dyno, using the brake dyno. It's definitely an incremental improvement over the previous model. Still, this car is putting out ridiculous amounts of horsepower. It handles a lot better than the old version, and I love it. Just took it to the track over the weekend. Check out that video. And huge shout out to AFR Performance and Victor. You guys should check them out if you're in the Los Angeles area. They tune all sorts of cars, do some really good work on gas cars. There's a 600 horsepower Evo that they just took off the line. You're a real one for making it this far into the video. Please subscribe to see more content like this. I'm still a small channel, but I want to expand into more cars, not just EVs, but gas cars included. And huge thank you to my current subscribers. I'm gonna do a giveaway for y'all soon. I'll see you for the next one.